Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist. First in weather here, it is August 7th, 2020, and we have an unusually powerful trough over the Midwest. This is valid for August 5th, so this is a couple of days ago. But this just goes to show that the high temperatures that we saw in the 70s and even upper 60s in states like Iowa, or Missouri, Indiana, and Minnesota was quite unseasonable for this time of year, more like fall, mid or early fall. So definitely a good, refreshing blast of cold air or unseasonably cool air for the Midwest. The eastern part of the country really did not see that much in the way of cooler air, really nothing at all. In fact, the past 2 days have been plagued by very slow-moving thunderstorms and showers that have led to quite a few flooding problems in parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Many areas in central Virginia have seen daily record rainfall totals, and lots of flash flooding has taken place in central and northern Virginia and also portions of the Northeast. And if we go, this is the European ensemble. If we go through time, we can see that the EPS really starts to break down that trough by the 8th, which is tomorrow, Saturday. And you can see it's really just crumpled down at this point. And then if you go further through time, you can see the European ensemble wants to build a nice ridge in the Great Lakes or just north of that region, and it basically has that warmth expanding all the way down into southwestern Texas with a little bit of a trough or short wave coming through in the western or northwestern portion of the country. And then as we go through time, the European just expands that ridge, basically a typical summertime pattern. So it doesn't look like we're going to be really seeing any sort of major cold fronts or big troughs coming through in the eastern part of the country after this one. It looks like we're going to see seasonably warm conditions and even temperatures above average for basically all areas east of the Mississippi after August 8th or 9th. So highs in the 80s, 90s, and humid conditions really for the foreseeable future into the middle of August. Now here's the GEFS ensemble. This is your 200 millibar velocity potential. And as you can see, we are seeing a well-deserved break off the west coast of Africa and the central Atlantic after Isaias and also Hurricane Hannah, which made landfall in Texas. Definitely a good break to see this sinking motion off the coast of Africa and also all throughout the Atlantic. This is for August 6th, so this was yesterday. And if we go through time, we can see that sinking motion really just gets even stronger in these areas right here. So basically all throughout Eastern Africa, stretching all the way into the Atlantic Ocean. And so that is good news for people that want to see a break from tropical activity that will really sort of suppress any wave formation. If you look at actually the actual coast and inland portions of Africa on the left side of your screen, you can see that there's even sinking motion where a lot of these waves and thunderstorms coagulate to become waves as they move off the coast of Africa. So that's definitely some good news. And as we go further, we can see that that sinking area stays quite stubborn. If you look at the southern tip or the southern portion of Africa, you can see we do have that still very pronounced sinking air, really limiting and choking off any potential thunderstorm activity and tropical development. If you go further through time, you can see that yes, that sinking motion is really covering all of Africa. So again, good news for any tropical waves that do try to churn up. But one thing I do want to point out is the central or the eastern Pacific and also the continental or the North American region and also the western portion of the Atlantic by the middle of August start to see some pretty pronounced rising motion. And so while the tropical wave formation or tropical wave train off of Africa might not be very pronounced and might be very subdued, if there are a cluster of storms that sort of form in the western Atlantic and then start to get their act together, they would be in pretty favorable conditions. But again, that doesn't really happen too often, so that is the good news there. Then August 17th, August 18th, 19th, 20th, still just widespread sinking air over Africa, indicating some suppressed tropical activity. And then finally, as we take the ensemble model, this finally starts to break down by the latter portion or latter third of August. Around August 20th, 21st, or 22nd, we start to finally see that suppressed sinking air over Africa start to break down, and even a bit of rising potential air or negative velocity potential. So it looks like we're seeing a well-deserved break again from tropical activity and major threats to the United States, at least for the next 10, 15 days or so, where I don't really think that there's going to be much of a threat of any sort of tropical storms or hurricanes in the Atlantic region. So that is definitely good news there. However, I do want to caution, though, that there are many indications. For example, the NWS, the Colorado State University, they have both released forecasts calling for an extremely active hurricane season this year. They both have upped their forecast quite severely. Both are calling for around 20 to 25 named storms this year. So again, pretty significant forecast. Not very often you see a forecast this pronounced, this aggressive. So definitely anyone along the coast, from Texas to Florida all the way up to the Mid-Atlantic states, definitely need to keep an eye out for this season. This definitely looks like it could be an interesting one, and one that has quite a few storm systems. Now, if we go to the GFS model, this is the 250 millibar wind streams. You can see that the torrential rains that we've been seeing over the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast has been caused by these southwesterly winds right here in the upper atmosphere. And with very low winds at the lower levels, those strong jet stream sort of winds, this amplified area of winds at the higher levels of the atmosphere has allowed those storms to sustain themselves and those updrafts to not really collapse on themselves. And that what the result of that is you have storms moving very slowly, but storms that also don't collapse. And so because of that, you're having hours upon hours of rain in some cases on the same spots, leading to very dangerous flash flooding. Just yesterday, the town of Leesburg, Virginia, saw 5 inches of rain in less than an hour. So again, you're dealing with some very dangerous storms here. While they might not be very severe, the amount of torrential rain coming from them is quite noteworthy because of this jet streak. And if we look at the GFS, we can see that this is August 8th, so that jet streak is still in place. So I still expect some, in general, unsettled activity over the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic as that those northwesterly winds also come in place. And then after that, that jet streak finally moves off, and we see that slowdown of higher level winds, which will finally, I think, eliminate the consistent storms we've been seeing over the area. And also, one other thing is that the GFS model, is showing a relatively weak high pressure region forming over just northwest of Virginia. And so that should help to suppress some activity. Again, it's the middle of August, so I think you're going to see just a few pop-up storms, but again, it will suppress the widespread nature of the storms we've been seeing over the past couple of days. And now finally, if we look at the NAM model, this is a sounding for today, or August 8th, 20Z, so tomorrow, Saturday. And you can see it's still showing those favorable conditions, but notice how those winds in the higher levels are much weaker than they were just a few days ago, and even yesterday as that jet streak finally moves off the coast. But again, still very good CAPE. So this is indicative that the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast will continue to see pop-up storms, but just not as widespread as they have been over the past couple of days. So that should provide some relief from the constant flooding threat we've been seeing the past 2 days. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.